How are you feeling today? Do you feel fulfilled in life? The show will begin in 4 minutes. Are you ready? When was the last time you felt betrayed? When was the last time you felt loved? The show will begin in 3 minutes. Are you ready? What did it feel like to be in love? What is the most painful part of being in love? The show will begin in 2 minutes. Are you ready? Are you ready to be transformed? Are you ready to make a change? The show will begin in 1 minute. I hope you're ready. The show will begin in exactly 30 seconds. Get ready. What if I told you that you can make a man fall for you with just your words? What if I first warned you, though, that this strategy might work so dangerously well that you end up having men wanting to do more for you than you ever even asked for. If you still want to learn what that strategy is, then join me on today's show where we'll be discussing how to make men fall in love with your words. That way you understand how to have a man wrapped around your finger with just a few sentences. Welcome to the Players Club. If you're paying attention to me and everyone else in the live stream, please say here present so that I know you're here present and actively participating. How are all you beautiful people doing here today? I'm looking kind of tall in the frame. I might have to restructure that, make it go up a little bit higher or something like that. And sorry, when you got chat, my height be messing up the shot and stuff. I gotta move things around for me and my height. How are you all doing here today in the chat? Who we got up in the chat? I see we got Justice here, Pink is here, Nar is here, Lebanese Princess is here, Francis is here, Adorable is here, Mia is here, and of course we have our three moderators, Scotty, Sharice, and SH here. Welcome all you beautiful people in the TikTok chat. Who we got up in the YouTube chat here today? I see we got Denise here, Mary Kim is here, Precious is here, Becky is here, Blues is here, LP Baby is here, Aline is here, Kayla is here, Justice is here. I saw one of our amazing channel members, Tracy, now is here earlier. I believe, is Great Fortune Cookie here? I didn't see her name yet. I see Jazz is here. Welcome all of you beautiful souls. So good to see you. Let's get started in today's show. Okay. All right. Sorry for being late, chat. I apologize. I know those of you in the YouTube chat, you guys are always patiently waiting for me right at 4 o'clock. What type of eraser is this? You go to the store, you thinking about your chat, trying to get them a good eraser. Look at this. Look at this. Somebody come look at this. Not even erasing the damn board properly. You can still see the words. Anyways, let's hop into our first point here, okay? Very, very important for today's show. What I want you to kind of take from this is, I hear a lot of you ask me, well, Tomisin, you give me advice about how to avoid trash men. You also give me a lot of advice on how to, how to navigate the dating scene. My brain is scrambled today. How to navigate the dating scene. And yes, I understand how I'm going to go about things when I first meet someone and the things I should be looking for when I first start dating someone. But what are some of the things that you can talk about and discuss as it relates to maintaining relationships, right? After you get through some of the beginning stages, right? So this show should apply to both people who are in relationships and people who are in more of their talking and dating stages for all of you. So why are we calling our first point the pullback here? Let me explain a kind of little bit of a visual here that I want you to take in. So when you're with a man and you begin seeing this guy, right? One of the things that people will tell you to do a lot is to compliment this man. But they never really necessarily tell you exactly what you should be complimenting. And so you just kind of waffle around, I don't know what the word would be, right? And kind of aimlessly compliment him on random things about him. So you compliment things like his clothes, right? You compliment some other things like maybe you might compliment his hair, right? You might compliment his teeth. Maybe he's got a really nice smile. You might compliment other things like how tall he is. Maybe he's a really tall guy. You might compliment other things like maybe his body. Maybe he's got a nice body, a six-pack, he's really strong, things like that. And so there are all these different things that you can touch on to compliment him and make him feel good about himself. Because what you're obviously attempting to do as you compliment him is you're attempting to make him feel good about himself and also subsequently make him feel good about you. But there's a little bit of a problem with this. See, all of these things, while he might be able to work on his body, right, and get a better body, maybe he works on his dental hygiene and he has better or nicer looking teeth because of how much work he puts into that. But at the end of the day, you see, you're not doing something very important for men. You're not really serving the ego as you should be. Because if you really want to touch a man's heart and you really want to affect him with your words, you have to make sure the words are connecting to the most important part of a man, which is his ego. So here's the thing about potency and why I call this first point that you need to pull back. Because what I don't want, see, when we have all of these different points here, right? I'm going to add treatment here as well. When we add all of these different parts of the ways in which you can compliment men, see, what I don't want is there to be an abundance of all of these different compliments that you can give to men, and you end up just using all of them in your arsenal at once and firing all of them at him at the same time 24/7 all the time in your relationship. The problem with that is you're going to lose a lot of the potency that is meant to come with how impactful your words are supposed to be to him and how they're supposed to touch his soul and his spirit and actually alter his mind state and make him feel a way towards you, right? We're trying to do multiple things simultaneously. So then the question becomes, okay, Tomisin, you're asking me to pull back, but you're also saying that speaking to him and my words are going to actually make him fall in love with me. So what are the specific things that I should be pulling back on in order to get him to fall in love with me? Well, this is going to sound very strange, but I want you to pull back on each and every one of these. And the only one I want you to focus on is his treatment of you. Okay? I don't want you to focus on any other part of your relationship when it comes to expressing yourself with your words, except for this treatment of him. Now, I'm going to break down in our next points exactly why I only want you focusing on this part, but I want you to help you understand and get your mind turning in the right way, because I want you to kind of center yourself in one area specifically to make this area as potent as possible. And stop thinking about how you can serve a man's ego or compliment him in these other ways, because they're not going to serve with the same level of potency. In fact, if we think of this like a big, large soup here, and all of these different compliments or areas you can compliment him are like ingredients, by the time you add all of these different ingredients, you're really going to lose the essence of what the soup is supposed to be. We want it to be potent in the exact specific way that you're looking for this to be received. And the most amount of potency is not by adding a whole bunch of other random ingredients in small, minute ways. It's about focusing in on the most important ingredient to get you to your desired result. And your desired result is to make him feel a way about you in the way that you speak to him. So let's hop into our second point so we can understand how do we really connect with men when it relates to this part of treatment, right? And why do I mention treatment as the way to speak to a man to actually affect his mind and affect the way he feels towards you, okay? Let's do this here. This board gets harder and harder to erase every single day. I don't know what it is. It's like semi-permanent dry erase markers I'll be having on here, okay? All right, let's hop into our point number 2, which this is where we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So if you were kind of half asleep before, I want you paying attention now. Okay, so point number 2 is I want you to understand how important association is. So we're going to have the ego here, and this is a really important visual I want you to see. So we have the man's ego here. And remember how I said in our previous point, we have all of these different ways that you can compliment him, right? So just for example, you can talk about teeth, right? You can talk about how tall he is. You can mention his body, right? We also had in here treatment, which is the main focus. And we also mentioned things like, we can even put in here his clothes, right? So obviously there's so many more things you can compliment on a man. I'm just kind of breaking it down simplistically so we can all be on the same page. Now, when we're talking about a man's ego, see, theoretically, right, we can kind of connect all of these different places, let me put a little circle around this. We can kind of connect all these places here and say, yeah, if I compliment him on his hygiene or the way he takes care of himself, maybe that'll make him feel good about himself. Yeah, maybe. If I compliment him on his height, how tall he is, his build, maybe that'll make him feel real like a man, like a really good, strong, amazing man that I'm really proud to be around. Maybe if I compliment him on his body, that will kind of do the same thing. And maybe if I tell him he has such amazing style, that will kind of make him feel good about himself and get him attached to me. But here's the thing, as it relates to a man's ego. See, remember, you're trying to use your words not just to say random things randomly. You want these words to affect him. You want them to change him and actually change the way he feels towards you. So if we're going to do that, and we're going to do that properly as it relates to men, we have to be focused on this area right here, his ego. Everything that you do when you're associating and interacting and speaking to men especially, you want to be focused on how you use ego to your benefit, or how you use ego against a man to get what you want from him. I know it sounds very manipulative, but we're here in this show and in the Players Club to help you understand how to get what you want. So when we're thinking about how to really affect a man's ego, because we want him to fall in love with your words, then we have to focus on this most important part here, and this association here. Now, this is where I want to kind of help you gain an understanding about why this association will be the absolute, positively most important association that you need to be making with your men from the very beginning of your relationship. And even if you've been in a relationship with this man for a while and you're just learning this information now, I want this to be the area in which you focus the most on for the rest of your relationship. The reason for this is because you can actually make a man feel like a man so much more by focusing on this association here than anything else you could possibly say to him. This association, right, and the reason I want you bringing this association to the forefront of your relationship with him is because this will represent the amount of ability he has to fulfill his duty to you as a man. You know, we always have the saying that the men's responsibility in a relationship is to protect and to provide. See, the men also have an understanding of that. They also know that their responsibility in a relationship is to protect and to provide. So when you associate with him, the compliments that you give to him, with his ability to protect and provide through his treatment of you, now you're creating a link between the ways that he will feel good about himself as a man and the area in which you're going to focus on emphasizing makes him feel, or that makes you feel good in your feminine, and is kind of the validation, which we're going to get to, and verification that he is doing his job as a man. Okay? I know it sounds very complex, but when I finish explaining this to you, it'll make a lot more sense. Because this part of your relationship, right, is also linked to the way that he does things for you, right? The way that he takes you out, the way that he pays attention to your needs, the way that he solves your problems. Men love to solve problems. It's also subsequently related to the way that men know best how to show their love for you. I've talked about this part on previous shows. Men, see, they're not as good as you are at expressing your feelings and emotions. See, you can talk up a storm about how you feel on the inside, how things that you observed and seen affected you and affected your life and affected your mind frame. You're good at that. That's your skill set as a woman. For the men, it's a little bit harder for them to make that connection between their feelings and expressing them outwardly through words. That's your superpower, which is why this is your show about words. But for the men, they do know how to make the association of taking action for you. They do know how to make the association of doing things for the purpose of your happiness. They know how to serve you and show their love for you by going out and helping to solve your problems. That subsequently makes you happy, which also is in relation to the topic that we were discussing earlier. Men's responsibility in the relationship is to protect and to provide. So you see how this is all kind of connecting together in the way that you're making an association to his ego. You're attaching that specific association to his treatment of you, which subsequently is about the ways that he will protect and provide for you. So you're making him feel most like a man by acknowledging the ways that he's going about the relationship that's taking care of you as his woman. Okay? This association will affect him so much more potently than talking about any of these other topics. Because now you're kind of attacking the area that is actually going to make him really recognize the ways that he's a man. I know it sounds very silly and very trivial, but you have to understand how ego plays a role in a man's mind. When he feels a lot like a man, it's like a snowball effect where he wants to continue doing that, to continue feeling that feeling of I'm getting stuff done, I'm taking care of my woman, I am the man. Vice versa, when a man feels not like a man, when he feels very emasculated, he kind of snowballs in the opposite direction. And he'll continue to lash out because he feels emasculated, okay? Someone said, give an example. I'll give you an example of a man feeling emasculated and a man feeling like the man, okay? So an example of a man feeling emasculated would be, let's just say, for the sake of example, there's a movie, actually. I'll refer to this movie because it's an interesting movie. I think the movie is titled Fair Play. And in this movie, there's this couple that works at the same, I think it's an investment firm. And at this investment firm, they work the same position, the same role for essentially the same amount of time. And they began dating and being in a serious relationship while they met at work. And at this job, eventually the woman gets promoted to a position of power. She now becomes her boyfriend's boss, but they're living together. And he now has had a lot of experience in the company. He's done his best to try and work his way up, and he really wanted that position. His girlfriend ends up getting that position, and she kind of feels bad about it because she's like, damn, I know you really wanted that. And they were both hoping that he would get that position. Now that the balance of power is out of whack, not only does she have the responsibility of power in terms of at work and over him because she's now technically his boss, but she's also getting paid more than him. She's also, more in communication and in control of what goes on at the company now, right? And making decisions about who stays and who goes. And the situation in the relationship ended up deteriorating. I'm not going to spoil the movie for you, but the relationship started to deteriorate because that man felt emasculated in the relationship simply just because he was feeling like he was below his girlfriend in the relationship because his girlfriend had a position of power at the company. And what you'll see throughout the movie, I'm not going to spoil it, but what you'll see throughout the movie for some of you that might have watched it is that slowly but surely that emasculation eats away at his soul. And he starts to go from being someone who's caring and nurturing and protecting and providing as a man. And he deteriorates into a lesser, lower frequency version of himself until finally he's kind of like lost it, right? He's lost it completely because he can't control himself anymore. And he is so out of whack energetically and spiritually in what he feels his responsibility is supposed to be in his relationship and what it now represents and what he now feels in the relationship, okay? So I say all that to say that's an example of a man getting emasculated. Now on the vice versa end, let's say for the sake of example, right? A man is, we can keep it at work, is up for a position at work. And he comes home, let's say his wife doesn't work at that company, and he's now talking to her about the things that he needs to work on and the project that he needs to do and everything that needs to go on. And his woman builds him up and says, no, you got this. You're so smart. You're so intelligent. Don't you remember last year when you had a project just like this and you were studying all night and you were doing all the numbers and crunching all the numbers and you came up with this great idea at the company and you solved one of the biggest problems that they were having this entire time. And the reason that they're able to be in this position now is because the ways that you turn things around and you change things and you literally changed this company for better. That was you. You did that. And then he goes, yeah. I did do, that was me. That was me, wasn't it? It was me. It was you. It was you. And then he goes and he takes that confidence that you just instilled with him because you made him feel like such a man. And now he's able to focus and believe in himself to go out into the world and do more with the confidence that you bestowed upon him, right? So those are kind of the opposite examples of how you can both, emasculate a man not necessarily through your words, but just through the way that he starts to feel and how that might deteriorate the relationship, and also how you can breathe life into him and how that will make him feel and build him up to do more. Okay, so the reason that I want to mention that is because I want you to understand how important ego is for men. Okay, let's hop into point number 3. Okay, I'm gonna have to clean this board after this. This is legit a workout. All right, so point number 3 here. Very important. All right, now we're going to get into even more detail when it comes to how you're going to go about this. Okay, because I don't want you to be confused at all. So we're going to put you here. You're not going to make fun of my drawing. You're just going to listen, okay? Because I have information to share with you. So making fun of my drawing is not going to serve you, all right? You're here. And we're going to put the man here. Oh, actually, you know what? We'll put the man up here. Right? So we'll put this man up here. And then over here, we'll put another one, this one, because I want to give you a nice example that will make a lot of sense for you. Okay? So this is one of your, we'll put your friend. And this is your man. Okay? Now, what I want to kind of do for you here is something very special so that you can gain in your understanding of how to be slick about this. Because, see, being too obvious with your words sometimes doesn't always have the same desired effect. Being more indirect with your words and your expression can actually get you where you want to go even faster sometimes because it feels more organic. Let me put it to you in a scenario that will crystallize what I'm trying to say here. So what I want you to kind of pay attention to is the fact that, people, are very predictable. What I mean by that is you have to understand, in a perfect world, when you get a partner, you would have privacy when it comes to things that don't necessarily concern him. So when you're talking to one of your girlfriends, sure, theoretically, when you're talking to one of your girlfriends and he's around, he would just tune his ears out because maybe what you're saying to her or she's saying to you doesn't relate to him and is not important to him. So he shouldn't be listening to your conversation and eavesdropping. But in reality, human beings are human beings, and they're actually very predictable. So what I want you to do is use something like this to your advantage. I want you to give him validation, but I don't want you to give him this validation directly. I want you to validate him with your words. And remember, we're making an association between his ego and treatment of you. I want the way that you validate him to not come directly to him. I want it to be to other people. But I want you to strategically do this in a way that allows him to both observe you and what you're saying towards him and observe, right, the other person as well, right? So how does that actually look in a relationship? What can happen is, for example, you like to speak to your girlfriends, you like to talk on the phone with them. Sometimes your man might be around while you're talking on the phone with your girlfriends. When you pick up the phone and he's around, right? See, one of your biggest inclinations is that when you talk to your girlfriends, you want to talk to them about problems in your relationship. I'm not saying you can't talk to your girlfriends and express the things that are bothering you in your relationship. But what I also want you to make sure you focus on doing, especially when he's around, I want you to focus some of that time that you spend talking to your girlfriends, talking up the things that your man has done for you. Okay? This is going to be very strategic because remember, human beings are very predictable. And in a perfect world, he wouldn't eavesdrop on your conversation with your girlfriend. But in reality, when you're sitting right there, or you're just in another room with very thin doors, and he can hear you yapping away with your girlfriends, and you start talking about, girl, you don't know what this man did for me. He went and he got this, my favorite bag from the Chanel store, the one that I was literally looking up, and he got that for my birthday. No, he's different. He is a special man. I can't even believe he was able to get the right one. I was looking for the Chanel Classic Flap. That's the one that he got for me. My favorite one in my favorite color, right? And even though he's there, even if he's right next to you, you just pretend like, oh, I'm having a conversation with my girlfriend and I'm just telling her about what happened. But you don't understand, obviously, as he's observing this, he's like, hey, you really like that bag, ain't you? You know what I'm saying? I used to like, it's a little something light, you know what I'm saying? You know, just trying to make my girl happy, type. You know, a lot of men, they can't really do it like me, type. And that's what he's thinking in his mind. He's not going to say that, but that's what he's thinking to his mind as you're bragging about him in front of him. And it's a version of validation because not only are you validating him in terms of like how you feel about what he did for you, but you're actually going as far as talking to other people about what he did for you. Now, remember, we're attaching yourself to a man's ego in order to actually affect him. Now you're really making him feel like the man. Okay? You're really propping him up. And you're doing it in a way that actually is impactful for him because now he's really feeling like the man. He's feeling like he's taking on the responsibility of protecting and providing. He's feeling like, damn, you know, ain't no one treat my woman better than I treat my woman. But the thing about it is, you might be thinking, well, Tomisin, why am I going all this extra way to tell him how amazing the things that he did for me? Because now you're creating a positive association. You're creating an association to the best feeling he will get. The most validation he will earn from you is when he does work for you. When he shows up for you, when he takes action for you and for your happiness, that's when he will receive the ultimate validation. That's when you will have something to brag about. And make no mistake about it, you will brag. You'll brag to your friends. I seen someone else say, some other people say his family. You can do that as well, right? Insert anybody here. It can be a family member, right? It can be yours or his family member. It can be yours or his friend, right? It could be one of his boys, his cousin, whatever, okay? Right? And when you do this, all you want to make sure is that he's able to observe this happening, whether it be over the phone, whether it be in person, whether it be on FaceTime, however you can do it in a way where he can also observe you doing this, right? Because it all works the same way. He just needs to see you validating him, not necessarily directly to him, right? Validating him directly to him is good, but validating him in a way where you're speaking to other people where he feels like, oh, you're not even doing this for me. You're really feeling that good about the way that I treated you. And once you start making men feel good about the way that they go about treating you well, now when they want that feeling, because make no mistake about it, feeling good like that can become an addiction in itself, right? Getting validated on that level, especially as a man, can really become an addiction where you start to feel like, damn, I get the most validation from my woman. I feel like she cares the most. I feel like the most important person in her life when I take action for her. So now he starts to look for other ways he can take action for you. Because make no mistake about it, you think a man will hear you brag about and talk him up in front of one of your girlfriends or one of his friends, and you think he doesn't want to continue having that on an ongoing basis? You're sadly mistaken if you think he doesn't like that and enjoy that, right? It's like an emotional wanking. You know how you be thinking, oh, I'm going to reward my man by getting on my knees and giving him a BJ? This is an emotional BJ, right? Because when he gets that and you're stroking his ego like that, he wants to feel like, damn, I want to feel that again. I might have to figure out something else I can get for you or do from you if you're going to be bragging about me like this, because you make me look good and you make me feel good. Then everyone else, right, especially if you can do this in front of people that he sees on a regular basis, now everyone else looks at me and thinks I'm the man. And then you have this vicious snowball cycle where because you're doing this for him indirectly and you're speaking to other people about how he takes care of you, he feels like the man. Then when you're not around, everyone else has a particular amount of respect for him because of how you talk him up. And then he continues to want to live in that narrative that he takes care of you. And he's always constantly thinking about how he can do more things for you. It's kind of like a snowball effect here, all right? So let's hop into number 4. Yeah, number 4. Okay. Does that make sense to all of you so far and why that is very, very important, right? I know it seems very simple or very trivial, I should say, but it does work on men, okay? In some ways they're complicated, in some ways they are not. All right. So your validation is going to come in the sense of indirectly. Now, let's get to this really, really important point. And I'd probably say this is the most important point of the show, because this is where we're going to get into the most nitty-gritty part of what I want you to understand here, okay? So I want to go through what does appreciation really look like, because I know one of the number one questions that a lot of you are going to ask me or be wondering as you're watching this show. How exactly do I show him the appreciation? What exactly should I say, Tomisin? You've broken down the concepts, but I need to know exactly how I go through this. So we're going to go through this. We're going to first start off with the what do you say, okay? In terms of what you say, what I want you to specifically refer to when you're showing a man appreciation, this is what you're going to go through anytime you really want to show a man appreciation, and especially when you want to make that association with the treatment. You need to tell him, first repeat back to him exactly I want you to repeat back to him when you're showing him appreciation, okay? At the times that are appropriate, you need to repeat back to him exactly what he did for you, okay? That's where you're gonna start, because we wanna make sure that this man is able to understand. I know it sounds very trivial and very childish, but you wanna make sure that he knows you know exactly what he did for you. So, for example, let's say that you were having an issue with your work computer, and you couldn't get it to work, and so you couldn't type up this project that you needed to do for work. And you've been having to go into the office to use the work computer in the office because you haven't been able to work on your work laptop. It's been crashing on you, okay? And let's say, for the sake of example, he figured out the issue that was with your laptop. He watched some YouTube videos, then he took your laptop to the store, he fixed a couple of things, he bought a couple of things to get it fixed up, and then he returned it to you so that you could continue working on your laptop. Let's just say that's the scenario. What I want you to do is I want you to be specific. When you start off in your appreciation, you tell him, I appreciate how you went to the store and you made sure that you took care of my laptop that wasn't working, right? My laptop wasn't working, and you took it to the store. You got this piece for my screen. You got this piece for my hard drive. You went to the other store to get this little screwdriver and whatever the case may be. You took it to the store, they fixed it up, and then you paid for it and you returned it back to me, and I didn't have to do anything. You're going into specific detail of exactly what actions he took each step of the way so that he knows that you know everything that went into solving your problem, okay? Right? It's very, very important, because remember, we're doing this for a reason. We're creating an association, but we have to make sure that we emphasize, which we're going to get to next, that we emphasize that you know exactly all of the things that went into doing this thing for you and taking care of you, right? It can't be a small thing, right? Even if it's a small action, you can't make it seem like it's small to you. Now, second thing here is we're going to talk about the why, okay? In your focus, you want to focus on telling him why this action was important to you, okay? Now, why are we telling him why this action was important to you? The same way we want to be specific in the details that we go through in recognizing each step that he had to take to get to this solution for you. We want to also recognize why it was important for you in your life, because we're going to crystallize this at the end in terms of the result. So we want to make sure that we set the table, not just of what he did, but why it was so important what he did because of your issue. So in the example that I gave you with the laptop and things like that, you also want to make sure you acknowledge, hey, my issue was that I couldn't get to work on my laptop because it was crashing on me. I couldn't get projects out. I was so frustrated. And because I was so frustrated, I had to go to work just to type my stuff up. It was costing me so many hours to commute back and forth when I'm supposed to be working from home. And I was wasting so much time just being on the train and in traffic trying to get to the office and back just to type up something simply when I could have been doing all of that work at home and saving so much more time. So it was so important for me that you fixed my laptop because you saved me time in my day. And now I'm able to be free to do so many more things with my time because I'm not spending time in traffic and going back and forth into the office unnecessarily. Do you see how very specific that is, right? And I know, like someone said, oh, it's like talking to a toddler. It is. But when you break it down like this, you're making the association so strong, right? And you're making it so specific, guys can't mistake this. They can't forget about this talk. The same way you bring a lot of importance to a talk when you want to address your issues is the same way we want to bring a lot of detail and importance to the topic of addressing the things that he's doing well for you and the actions that he's taking that are in line with what you want to continue seeing. Okay, so we've talked about the what and we've talked about the why it is important to you. Now, lastly, we focus on the how. Specifically, how this action that he has taken changed your life for the better. I even actually accidentally went into it when I was just discussing our example for the previous why point. But in the how, you also want to acknowledge, yes, this was my issue. This is what I was suffering from. Now you go into, as a result of the action you took by going and fixing my laptop, I'm able to save so much more time. I don't have to travel 2, 3, 4 hours to go to the office and back each and every day. Now I'm able to be more relaxed. I'm able to work more efficiently because I'm not stressed out by having to wake up early and go to the train. I'm able now to take back that time and go to the gym more. I'm able to cook more. I have a better life because of the way that you took action for me and what you did, right? And solving my problem that was such a big problem and why it was a big problem. And now as a result of the action that you took for me in our relationship to better my life and take care of me as the amazing man that you are, this is the result of the actions that you took on my behalf. Okay? So this is kind of like the crystallized version. You guys can screenshot this or take a note of this. If you want to understand exactly how you show a man appreciation. Now, this same thing applies to anything that you want to show a man appreciation for as it relates to actions that he took for you, okay? So you can copy and paste that kind of concept or that template on anything that he does for you that you really want to emphasize the importance. Because remember, the specific place that we want to focus on creating an association with the men that you're dating and even the men that you're already been with for a long time is the place of the way that he treats you. That's where you want to emphasize complimenting him. That's where you want to emphasize the way that you speak to him, because that's the place that's going to breathe the most life into him as a man. In the way that you're expressing how he's fulfilling his duty as a man with you by protecting and providing and doing all the other things like solving your problems, okay? You want to have an emphasis on these places. Let's hop into our fifth point here, which ironically was my last words here, which is emphasis, okay? We're going to discuss how do you properly emphasize this outside of the details, because it's not just the emphasis in terms of the words that you say, you're also wanting to set an environment where emphasis will hit the most, okay? So, in our fifth point here, okay? Now we have emphasis. So, it's gonna look weird when I first draw it, but don't worry. I'm trying to explain a point. And then we're going to put down why did I draw that like that? Okay. And then we'll put down, okay, chat, don't judge me. Okay. Don't judge me. We're going somewhere with this. Trust me, chat. We're going somewhere with this. I'm not trying to be nasty. We're actually going somewhere with this, okay? I want you to understand this as it relates to emphasis, okay? And stay with me. We're actually going somewhere very important. The emphasis is not just about the words that you're... Get serious, chat. The emphasis is not just about the words that you're going to speak to a man. It's also about setting the proper environment for all of these things to hit with the proper level of potency that you want, okay? I keep saying the word potency because when you speak to men with words, you want the words to be impactful. You don't want to be having a word salad. You need your words to make him feel something. And you don't want to be over-explaining and over-communicating that your words lose their potency. So we want to make sure, how can you communicate with the most emphasis as possible, that when you do speak and you do let out those sentences, even if they're few and far between, they're very impactful. So what am I referring to here? You have different parts of the man, okay? So you have first here their mind. I said mid. Their mind, right? Their body. We'll also call it their heart. We can also say heart. And then we have, even though this is lower, we're going to call that ego, okay? So the reason that I'm referring to this here is because when you emphasize things, you want to make sure you set the stage for the proper amount of emphasis to even take place. So I don't want you to make the mistake of thinking that, oh, my man, he's supposed to be doing good for me. So I'm not really going to bother myself being too serious or caring too much about the times that I acknowledge the good things that he's doing for me. Because like, he's supposed to be doing those things. Like, what? I'm supposed to be rewarding a man and talking to a man for doing the bare minimum for me? Like, whatever. We don't do that. That's so last year, okay? I don't want you thinking like that, because it's a horrible way to go about your relationships. What will end up happening is the men that you're dating, and even the men that you've been with, you will only want to emphasize and sit them down to talk to them about the bad that they're doing. What will happen over the course of time is he will only feel like you only see the bad that he does. He will not feel like there's a balance between you emphasizing the good that he does and also emphasizing the bad that he does. He will only feel like it's the opposite direction, where the only time there is emphasis, the only time there is focus, the only time there is detail, the only time there's a real sit-down talk is when he does something bad. So I want you to set the stage of how you emphasize something good. What does that look like? Anytime you want to go into detail about the appreciation that you have for a man and what he did for you, I want you to sit him down in a quiet place, not while the football game is on, not while you're watching me on YouTube, not while you guys are doing something else or some other activity. If it's in bed, that's fine, right? At the end of the night when you guys are having a discussion, I want this to be time where he can only focus on you, because I want his mind there, right? And I want this to be impactful for him. And when you sit down with him, this is why I'm also adding body, right? Because the mind is the quiet, right? We want quiet. And we want focus. Okay? Right? That's the mind part, in being able to recognize this is an important moment that you're going to put emphasis on. Now, the body part is, at this time, when you're showing him this appreciation, remember, this is how to make a man fall in love with your words. So we need them to be potent, which means we need to add every single element that we possibly can to make this potent. Now, when you use your body, you're not going to sit on top of him. Don't get nasty. I want you to look in his eyes, and I want you to hold his hands. When you say this, I know for some of you, this sounds super childish and super silly, but I promise you, I'm telling you this as a man. When you do this, you're going to emphasize this so much, it'll be impossible to forget, okay? So you're going to hold his hands, you're going to look in his eyes, and then you're going to repeat all of the associations, all of the treatment and appreciation that I mentioned in my previous point, okay? The reason I'm saying that is because now you're going to go into detail in terms of the what, the how it affected you, and the why it was so important to you, all the stuff that I just mentioned. But you're going to do this while having direct eye contact with him, while holding his hand, right, in a quiet, calm place where he can also focus on you. There's no external distractions or things going on, right? And so I'll put all of this here, right? Hold hands and eye contact. Now, we get to y'all nasty, nasty people's favorite part. The reason I drew this like this and I drew ego here is because it's kind of related to the PP, but not in a way that I mean like physically and directly related to the PP. I mean the hard-on that men get when they feel like their woman is really, really in love with them and really, really appreciative of them and the way that they're going about this relationship. I know it sounds very, very strange, but men are like dogs in multiple senses. And in this sense, when you're telling him how good of a job he's doing in being your man, it can create a situation where he's having a lot of, it all kind of is connected. I'll say it like this. And when you're telling him and giving him that appreciation for being such a good boy, it can almost like stimulate everything else because he's like, damn, I really am doing a good job. It's the same reason why when you're sleeping with a man, if you really want to get him turned on, you act like you're really into it because it's going to turn him on, because when he feels like he's doing a good job, it's going to excite him more to continue doing more. Okay? And if you might say too much of, good words, and maybe the way that you go about it, you're enjoying it so much, he might himself get so excited, he spills a mess all over the place. Okay? Right? And the reason I'm saying this is because with all of this in association, you're also doing something that can feel very, we can say spiritual. And we'll also say physical. It's kind of weird to be both spiritual and physical, right? And in a weird way, it can kind of sort of feel, can we fit that here? We can fit that. Okay. I know it sounds very weird because you're giving him appreciation that may not have anything to do with sex. So how can it become sexual? It's because when men get praised like this for being a man and for being such a good man to you, it can start to become like a non-sexual turn on. You're not men, so it might not make a lot of sense to you, but trust me, I know what men feel and I know how they think and I know how they receive things. When you can tell men they're doing a good job, and assuming they actually have done a good job, but you're emphasizing how good of a job they're doing, it makes them feel really good all over the place, mentally, spiritually, and also physically, right? Everything starts to work properly, and he starts to think about how he can do more for you, okay? And I want that for you. And I want you to understand how if you give the right amount of focus to this, and you eliminate all the other stuff of trying to compliment him in all these other ways that really won't do anything for him, and you just focus on this one part of the way that you speak to him and speak life into him, assuming he's actually your boyfriend and it's actually a serious relationship, you can get so much more out of him and so much more investment. Because even though the show is titled How to Make a Man Fall in Love with You with Your Words, it also is indirectly really about how to make a man act for you and take action for you by using your words. Because men's version of expressing love is not by just telling you back, oh, thank you for saying those things to me, I'm also going to tell you how much I love you. Their way of expressing and showing love is by taking action for you. So when I say how to make a man fall in love with you, I'm really referring to how to make a man take action for you on an ongoing basis. Because that's really and truly what you want as a woman, more than anything. Yes, it's great for him to tell you he loves you a bunch of times, but it's also even better if on a regular, everyday basis, he goes about taking action for you because of his love for you, and being consistent with you because of his love for you, and investing into you and solving your problems because of his love for you, right? And that's the way that men understand how to show and express love anyway. So it all kind of works together and fits together, okay? Does that make sense, right? LP Baby says, why did you draw the pee-pee like that? Isn't that a regular looking uncircumcised pee-pee? I don't know. Do people have different kinds? I guess there's whatever. Anyways, you guys get my point. Do you guys have any questions about the 5 that we just discussed here? Okay, right? I hope it all makes sense to you guys. Hope you guys didn't get distracted by my drawing. By the way, for any of you who have questions, whether it be about this show, you can ask them here. But if your question is unrelated to the show, or it's just about a slightly different topic, but it's about your relationship or your guy, and you really, really want to get my answer, like you need me to see this and give you some advice, you can go over to link in my bio on TikTok or link in my description on YouTube, and you can ask me a personal question there. It's a private question. It's like a hotline. You submit your question into me, click where it says private relationship advice. Then you submit your question into me, and then I respond to you with a voice message, usually 8 to 10 minutes long, and I will address your situation, give you advice on it, or give you perspective on it if you need that as well, okay? So make sure you go ahead and do that if you want some of my personal and private advice. Weenu says, how long does that take, Tomisin? Haven't gotten like since, wait, my response? Wait, what? What do you mean? Like, how long does this process take? This process that you should be doing this with men who actually show you that they're invested in you, okay? I always have to kind of segment or preference whenever I'm talking about a subject that is more in line with when you're in a relationship versus one that you'll be using as a strategy to build a relationship, simply because I know that some of you will hear the topic of how to make a man fall in love with your words and think to yourself, oh, I'm going to use this on the guy who lives in my building that I rarely ever see and doesn't pay me any mind or any attention or has never asked me on a date. Like, you have to understand that the preface to this is that the guy actually has to show interest in you and care about actually being with you. It's not just like you can say this to a random stranger and make him fall in love with you by saying this randomly. That guy hasn't done anything for you. So there has to be some investment there that you can even be showing appreciation for the investment that he's putting into you. Okay, so just keep that as a caveat in your mind, and remember that if you're not in the stage where you're with a man right now, then you focus on pocketing this information and holding on to it until you're actually in that such scenario and situation, right? Okay. Francesca says, no man has made it past the second date. It's okay. It's okay. You're in the Players Club. You're learning. The more you learn, the more you'll be able to strategize, the better you'll be at picking men and finding the right men for you. And eventually your dating life will become better over the course of time. Don't worry, it's just a process. Yvette says, I believe you can't just make a man fall in love with you 0 to 100 randomly, right, Tommy? 100%. Yvette, you're a very smart cookie. That's not how it works. You don't just make a man fall in love by just spewing things to a stranger. That wouldn't make any sense. Like, let's be for real. That wouldn't make any sense. You can't spew things to a stranger that you've never met before and make them fall in love with you. But as men show investment in you, there is a strategy to transition it from just him thinking, oh, she's cool, she's whatever, to actually making him have deeper feelings for you. There definitely is a strategy to that. But of course, there has to be some initial investment and desire on his part. In general, you're not just going to be able to do that with a snap of a finger. You're not a fairy, okay? This ain't a magic trick. Rene says, does this apply if they are an avoidant? I asked. Well, here's the thing. I'm worried. When you ask the question if they're an avoidant, are you asking that because he's avoiding you in the sense that he's not really showing up for you and doesn't seem to care about building a relationship with you? If that's the case, then no, this doesn't apply. But if you're talking about a man who's actually invested in you, and let's say he just has avoidant tendencies or an avoidant personality at times, then yeah, as long as he has investment in you and he actually wants to build with you, then this strategy will work. If a man is not even showing the desire to build with you or invest in you, let me tell you this, chat. If this man cannot ask you out on a date, and you're talking about, oh, he's an avoidant, he hasn't asked me out on a date, and da-da-da, this doesn't apply to you, okay? If that man doesn't have the desire enough and interest enough to ask you out on a date, this doesn't apply to you. What appreciation are you going to be showing for what? Oh, thank you for texting me. Good. No, stop, okay? I love you all, but I know some of you hear it and then you're thinking about applying it to men that don't show interest in you. Don't do that. That's just not going to do what you needed to do. Okay. Right. Maple says, do men like holding hands? I mean, it depends on the guy. I like holding hands, but that's just me. I think most guys would enjoy holding hands with a woman that they like. That's my assumption. Okay. Francesca says, this guy gets a free hotel room and travels trips from gambling. Wait, what are you guys talking about in gambling? I'm confused. Lido says, is it worth going out with a rapper? He is the most famous in our country. I've talked in previous shows about why it's important to understand a guy's lifestyle and his job and his career path because it matters. And it's also going to communicate to you whether having a successful long-term relationship with him is even possible. I'm not saying that men with certain career paths are necessarily bad people, but what will happen majority of the time is based on his career path, it will either signal to you whether or not a relationship with him will be like pulling teeth or will be easier to happen. So for example, a guy who's a rapper, let's just break this down. I know that this is your question, and I know some of you are probably in a position like this. If he's a rapper or a musician, let's just break this down and break down the lifestyle. A successful career for a rapper or musician is a career in which he makes music, then he, shares that with his fans, some of which are girls, some of which are guys. And then he goes and he tours around the country. And then if he becomes a bigger artist, tours around the world to different cities each night with his crew of people who are just like yes men or yes women, and going around the country to perform his hit songs in front of all of these hundreds and thousands of fans, some of which are going to be beautiful, sexy women. Then he takes himself off of that stage at the concert where he performed in front of some of these beautiful and sexy women. There'll be men there as well. And he goes to a club, which he's also getting paid for. Remember, this is his job, to travel around the world to different countries. And he goes to a club now to perform some more songs, right? And show up and do an appearance. And he brings his crew who are filled with single men who also, you think single men don't get horned up? You think single men are going to turn down being able to sleep with different women in different countries that look all different times of the year? Of course not. So some of his friends and his crew that he travels with, he's going to be there at those clubs with those other drunk women, some of which are their biggest fans that would love to get a chance with that rapper. And all of his boys that he brings along in the crew are also all having a bottle of 1942 in their hands, Casamigos and Henny, pouring it in all those girls' mouths. And you want to know what happens at the end of the night? All of those girls get shoved into a Sprinter. Have you ever heard the song Sprinter by Central C and Dave? They get shoved into a Sprinter van. They all go to the hotel. I'm telling you this from experience, okay? They all get put into a hotel. They go to one spot and they all link up with the crew, and the rapper is there, and everyone enjoys their night. Okay, that's the lifestyle on a regular, everyday basis of a rapper or even a musician. And I'm not saying that to say whether it's good or bad. I'm just saying that to say that is not really conducive to having a happy, healthy, serious relationship. Because for a majority of the year, you're not going to be around your man, and he's going to be traveling around the world around alcohol and drugs 24/7, and there's no way to avoid it because that's his job, to be in those environments where that is around, okay? And so you're kind of putting yourself in a lose-lose situation by even attempting to have a relationship with a musician or rapper, where their whole life is just going to be touring around town, being around drugs and alcohol and women who want to sleep with them. Do you like, let's be so for real, okay? We're all adults here. The chances of that man being completely loyal to you in a scenario like that, unless he somehow is able to, he don't drink, he don't smoke, he don't do nothing, is very, very slim, okay? And so I just say that to say you're just fighting a losing battle at that point. You're better off finding someone who has a lifestyle conducive to a serious long-term relationship. Okay. Kimberly says, can you turn a friends with benefits into a boyfriend? See, the problem is you're a woman, right? And because you're a woman, it's not your job to lead or progress the relationship forward. So if a guy approaches you because he doesn't want anything more from you than to sleep with you, and you allow that, so you basically allow him to get access to you for free, for nothing, for no investment, he's not going to be inclined to then transition that into fully investing in you when he's been getting everything he could ask for from you for free. So the simple answer to that is it's very unlikely to basically impossible. Because most guys are not going to randomly wake up one day and say, I want to take this from being friends with benefits to dating you. Because why would they do that? They're getting everything that dating you would consist of without having to commit to you. It doesn't make any sense, which is why I say it doesn't make sense for you as a woman to agree to friends with benefits, because you're not actually benefiting there, okay? It's a facade. Some guys are really intelligent enough to break it down and make it seem like you're benefiting, but you don't benefit. Don't even think to yourself, oh, I'm benefiting because he's got a long schlong, he'll penetrate me and I'll be able to climax. That's still no benefit, because at the end of the day, after you climax, right, you might have a body shaking, climax. And then afterwards, you're feeling sad because that guy zips up his pants and he calls himself an Uber and he goes back to his business. And then you're like, damn, that was fun. And climaxing was fun, but I kind of want some connection, some conversation. And eventually you become frustrated because you don't have that. Right? Does that make sense? LP Baby says, question for part 1. Can we compliment his texting communication style in person so he can continue texting me paragraph novels? It's so cute. I'll say yes. If you want to emphasize something, an action that you want to continue, you can emphasize that. Now, I wouldn't advise you to be thinking about how to emphasize a guy being the best texter, though. The only reason I say that, LP Baby, is because any place that you put emphasis on, that will be the place that he thinks to put the most effort into. And we only have 100% of our time and energy. So I like to simplify things for you so you can simplify things for men as well. I would love for you to put emphasis on the places that will really benefit your relationship. So LP Baby, it might feel good for you to, on an ongoing basis, get novel length text from him every day. But the problem is, if you put a lot of emphasis on that part of the relationship and that part of his communication, he might start thinking every chance he gets, he should be focused on how to send you more novel text messages. But as he's putting all of that energy into sending you novel text messages, he's putting less energy into how to be a good partner to you in person, how to ask you out on more dates, how to be more creative in his dates with you, how to think of more fun things that you guys can do with each other, or ways that you guys can connect. And all of his focus will be on connecting with you over text message, the place that you've put the most emphasis on, okay? So I'm saying that to say, I would love for you to keep it simple and only put emphasis on places where you actually want him to put a lot of focus on. And understand that if he's putting a lot of focus in one particular area, he's taking away focus from another area. So if you want those novel texts and you put that emphasis there, he might be able to actually focus on that. But then once he focuses on that, you're going to get less of other things that he's not focusing on as much. I know you're thinking, but I want the perfect balance. Yes, in a perfect world, we get the perfect balance of everything. But in terms of keeping it simple for you and keeping it simple for your men to understand, I just want you to focus on the things that are most important to a successful relationship, which is the dates part and the, pursuit of you and taking you out more and seeing you more in person. Because you ain't going to build any relationship with the guy who just texts you forever and ever and ever, even though it might feel really good. Okay? Kayla says, if a man only puts his best foot forward with appreciation and compliments, is that a bad move? I wouldn't necessarily say so, because here's the thing. Obviously, when you show him appreciation, it makes him feel good and it encourages him to do better, right? So in a perfect world, he would do this all the time, regardless of you giving him feedback. But you also have to think of it as, it's not going to sound romantic, but you have to think of it as a little bit of a transaction. When he does something for you, you do something for him and his ego by showing him appreciation for that. If that just is the cycle that you have to go through to continue getting good things from him, then so be it. It still doesn't affect your ability to get good things from him, and he's receiving every time he's giving. So everyone's really happy at the end of the day in terms of that. And if that is I consider that to be a sustainable cycle in which he gives to you, he receives appreciation for what he does for you, and so on and so forth. The cycle continues. That's sustainable to me. I don't think it costs you very much to show him appreciation through your words and to emphasize that through the way that you set it up. And I feel like when you can do that, then you're kind of able to create a sustainable loop there, right? Kayla says that makes sense. Relationships are transactional. They are, but I just don't like to say that to all of you because I know when you hear that, you're all like, oh, that makes me dry. I want it to be like a fairy tale. But there is a transactional element to everything in a relationship, even if it's spiritual, even if it's energetical. Is energetical even a word? I keep saying it. Even if it's not something of like monetary value, there's always an exchange going on in some way, shape, or form. Shira said to me, it's for clout, you can date the rapper. I mean, Lighto, if you want to date the rapper, go ahead and date the rapper. But if you're asking me if you should date a rapper and try and have a successful relationship with a rapper, I would advise you to not waste your time. If Shira advises you to date the rapper for the clout and for the money and for the status, go ahead and you do that. My only sole focus is on your emotional well-being and your ability to not just have a cool, fun time, but also have a successful, long-lasting relationship. That's my main focus. Other people, their focus might be different, which is perfectly fine. Their, the things that are important to them or the things they advise you might be different, which is fine. But if you're asking me, that's what I advise. Blue says, does point 2 of association not conflict with that you said in the past shows, never let men know how good their treatment of us is? No, actually. I want you to tell men when they're treating you well and emphasize it when they're actually taking action for you. But what I don't want you to do and get into the habit of doing is when you tell men how good they're treating you, you also set the caveat that no man has ever done anything good for you. Because that sometimes I've realized is the mistake that can come along with appreciating a man for doing something for you. That you start to, like, in terms of trying to add sauce to it and really making it feel really big. Instead of doing the what, the how, the why, you start talking about how, oh my God, you got me flowers. No man in my entire life has ever got me flowers. All of them treated me like garbage and basically wouldn't even get me a box of chocolate. And that becomes like your way of emphasizing how amazing this is by telling him how everyone else has treated you like trash. That's what I don't want you to do when you show men appreciation, okay? And when I talk about holding back the compliments and holding back the appreciation, I'm talking about all the other very low quality forms of appreciation that just come like, oh, I like your t-shirt. Oh, you're so handsome. You're so tall. I like your hair and stuff like that. Just goes in one ear and out the other, all right? And the thing that you're doing for him is not the same as the way that you're making him feel like a man when he actually does work for you. And it's not the same association that I want for you and in the relationship, okay? Right? AB says, Tom, I saw the ultimatum as your request. I saw where the guy said it was her idea to go out for his birthday, not her desire. She got play. That's the thing. AB's referring to something I talked about yesterday with men. And, when you start leading the relationship and you are the one making all the, progressing it forward, telling him, hey, let's hang out, let's do this, come to my birthday, I want to be at your birthday, we should spend time together. What will happen sometimes is men will go along with it and then they'll turn back around after a while and they'll tell you that, hey, I actually never wanted to do any of this. I just was doing it because I knew it would make you happy. It's the number one reason I say when you're dealing with men and you're dating them, just do nothing, okay? There's a strategy to doing nothing properly, which we obviously discuss, but do nothing. Because when you do nothing and you let them lead the relationship, then they don't get to turn back around and say, oh, I never wanted this. And it helps to hold them more accountable because if they slip up or they're doing wrong in the relationship, they can't turn around and say, well, you're the one that kind of put us in this position in the first place. No. You're the one that pursued me. And if you want me, there's an expectation of how you show up and you haven't been doing that. Okay, what is he going to say to that? If he's the one that actually started off in approaching you and started off this relationship, he's going to say not a damn thing. Okay. All right, chat, let's hop into our next segment of the show. Our next segment is a very important segment. It's our segment where we do our React segment of the show. I react to TikToks, videos that you guys have sent to me from around the universe, okay? And we have some conversation about that there, okay? So we're gonna hop into that. I'm gonna clean up. I'm gonna bring my chair in and bring my headphones in, spam up your headphone emojis, spam up your camcorder emojis. We're gonna hop right into our React segment and we're gonna be filming this in 4K. While I do that, we're gonna watch an intermission video that comes from Matt Boggs. Today's intermission video, Matt Boggs talks about things men want but don't ask for. I'll join you all back in just a moment after I finish cleaning up. Matt Boggs, please take it away.
He wants you to take interest in his interests. Men love it when you become passionate about what he's passionate about. So whether that's his favorite sports team, or whether that's a hobby that he loves like RC planes or racing, or whether that's a job that he's passionate about, when you start to show interest in those things, it builds a bond and a connection between the two of you. But men rarely ask for this. A buddy of mine was telling me a story about how he's an avid football fan and he loves the Steelers. And he called his long distance girlfriend one Sunday and just to kind of check in with her. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? And she goes, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm getting ready for the Steeler game. Then she started talking about the game and what was coming up. And he's telling me, he's like, I couldn't believe she was actually getting ready for the game. I felt my heart connect to her. It totally melted because she's passionate about something that I'm passionate about. Because here's the deal. When you connect to something that he loves, the love that he has for that thing now connects to you. Number 3 is he wants you to initiate the sex. Go ahead and be bold. Surprise him. Come out of the bathroom in some sexy lingerie, maybe that outfit you haven't put on in a while, right? He wants you to be the one initiating sex. Unless, however, you are the sex machine in the relationship and you're doing all the initiating, in which case, give the man a breather. Now, I have a free gift for you also. If you want ways to be feminine, to ignite the attraction in the relationship, I've created a great ebook for you called 5 Feminine Qualities High Value Men Find Irresistible. I'm going to link it up here in the video and also below. You can go ahead and click that link, get that free gift. It's a gift from me to you. Number 4 is your man wants to be praised and acknowledged. And yet no man will ask for this or rarely ask for this. And yet it's what we crave the most, is that praise and acknowledgement, to know that we're doing a good job as your man. So it can be something as simple as just a favor that he does for you. And you say, hey babe, thank you so much for bringing the food home today. I really appreciate that. Or you can praise him for an everyday common experience, like him giving you a hug. So the next time he gives you a hug, whisper in his ear and say, babe, do you know that you give the best hugs in the world? And you will see him expand. You will see him literally feel better about himself. Because remember this, a man's sense of self expands under the light of your praise. Number 5 is he wants you to encourage him to adventure. Now, men, we are often conditioned to believe that women want way more time together than we want. And you and I both know that that's not true. You want your independence just as much as he does. You want your time or time with the girlfriends just as much as he does. But men, we're often conditioned to believe that if we ask for time away, then that you're going to get your feelings hurt, or that's going to be seen as a bad thing. So when you actually encourage him to go adventure in his life, to go get some guy time or to go do something that he loves, he is going to love that. So you could simply say, hey babe, I've got Sunday brunch with my...
Thank you, Mr. Backbox, for your intermission time. And we're going to hop right into our first video of the day here.
Asks you why you are still single. He doesn't get it, that it's actually really rude to ask this question, because it's almost as if he wants to see if anything is wrong with you. And it's exactly for this reason that you have to stop to be so transparent about yourself. You don't know this man yet. Instead of telling him, yeah, you know, I was with Ben, but he turned out to be a narcissist. Or you tell him, yeah, I was with John. We lived together for 5 years. And, you know, the thing was that he could never really find a good job. So we're always struggling financially. It doesn't really matter so much what you tell him. Anything negative shows this man that you are not able to attract a healthy relationship. So this is what you're actually going to tell him. Although I've met some really amazing men, I think I wasn't really ready yet for a relationship or to settle down. You see, I was working on myself and on my career. And now I feel that I'm ready to be in a relationship, and that is why I'm dating. That shows that you are a woman who's self-aware. She's in control of what's happening in her life, and she doesn't feel offended when somebody is asking her why she's single. Because remember this, ladies. First, a man needs to earn your trust before you give him a roadmap to your heart. If a man...
I 100% agree with this wholeheartedly. And it's not really, because I don't encourage you all to lie. But I do encourage you to be guarded with sensitive information that men can use against you, especially when you don't know what the men that you're dating are going to do with that information. So I 100% agree. When you talk about your previous relationship, I want you to extract a lot of detailed information from him. But part of joining the Players Club is being more strategic. When you go out on dates, I don't want you to be going into detail about he cheated on me like this, he did this to me, he threw me against the wall, he was so horrible to me. Don't do that. I'm not saying that that's not your truth, and I'm not saying that there should never be a time where you should express that. I'm saying when you first start dating someone, it's better to leave it vague and just say, there were things that I realized, I think on both sides, that we just weren't in alignment about. And once we realized that, I felt like the best thing to do was to just move forward, because I don't think that it makes sense for either of us to be wasting our time. And so I really want to find someone that I'm more aligned with in the most important, areas to me, or I feel like, shares my same viewpoints, whatever the case may be, right? Just make something up. When you get good at this, you'll learn how to put a word salad together that will sound like it means something, but it's not actually giving them any real information, which is exactly what you want to do on your dates. Okay? Give them no real information while extracting a whole bunch of good and detailed information. All right?
A man who's not that interested in you
we'll do
will
another
text
person.
you, and he
What do y'all be
Here's how
sending
I plan
me?
to find a husband in 2025 with the help of my vision board and ChatGPT. Starting with my vision board, I did put a man on my vision board in 2024, but I didn't find it, but it's okay. Basically, I put a man on here again a few times. I'm actually going to show you my vision board in another video. I'll just tell you how ChatGPT is going to help me find my husband. Basically, for years, I've had a list of all of the things, all of the traits, characteristics, everything that I want in my ideal man. And it's good to do that even if you don't do what I'm about to say next. I took my list and I said to ChatGPT, I said, if I want a man who has all of the qualities below, what type of woman do you think he would want? So I put them all in, and then ChatGPT says all of these traits that this man's ideal woman would have. Okay, some of them I'm good, some of them I'm good, some of them I could probably work on. And then I said, okay, period. Based on these qualities, what would the daily activities or schedule be of this woman? I get a whole schedule. Yep, I got a whole schedule between the wake up, the workouts, the breakfast, the work, everything. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna follow this schedule until I find my husband. And I'm gonna refer back to my list often to make sure that I'm not veering from the list. I will let you know how it goes. Here's how I plan to find a husband in 2025.
You know what? I'm not mad at this. The reason I'm not mad at this is because this is better than non-action. Okay? This or do nothing and just hope for your day to come and lay at home in bed hoping that someone will knock on your door and save your life. This is a better strategy than that. Okay? Because as long as you're doing something to get closer to your desired goal, it's always one step forward at the very least. Even though I may not say use ChatGPT and I feel like there's other ways to go about it, I think the idea is the same. And I think that for the most part, you'd be doing the same thing regardless of how you get the information and implement it. Is you're going to be looking for a source, whether it be a content creator, whether it be ChatGPT, whatever the case may be, a father figure, whatever. And you'll be looking for a source, you'll gather information, you figure out how that information applies to your life, what the strategies are that you need to implement, and then you'll implement those strategies. So it's the same concept. It's just she's using ChatGPT for it, which is kind of what makes it a little bit like strange. Because what does ChatGPT know about relationships? But understand that it is more important to take some sort of action if you want better relationships than to sit in your bed hoping that one day the pizza man that comes knocking on your door is going to magically be the guy of your dreams, and it's all a prank. He's actually a millionaire rich man who's ready to take you to a land far, far away. That's not going to happen. Okay, so don't dream like that. Take some action. What is this? What is this? I don't even have words for who sent this to me. Who sent this to me? I don't even have words for this. I don't have any words for that.
Girl, I need to tell you something. How that man is acting toward you ain't got nothing to do with you. It is not a reflection of you, of your worth. It is instead a reflection of how that man feels about himself. If you are over here in your single era and you are ghosting people left and right, leading people on, got 100 people in your phone that you have no interest in, are you treating them that way because of how they're treating you when they're interested in you? Or are you treating them that way because of how you feel about yourself? Because you're lonely, because you're hurt, because you've been hurt by your ex in the past, because you're bored, because you're frustrated with your situation. It ain't no different. It ain't no different. That man is treating you poorly because he treats himself poorly, because he thinks of himself poorly. How he's treating you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with him. Stop getting upset about it. Stop letting that ruin your day. Focus on loving yourself, treating yourself with kindness, so that when the correct man rolls around, you can correctly love him and treat him with the kindness that he deserves as well.
One thing that really frustrates me, and I want to do for you, if you want to think of me like a big brother figure or a little brother for some of you who might be older than me, what I want to do for you is I want to put you in a place where you just stop caring so much. And it's not that I don't want you to care about any guy at all in any capacity. I just want you to stop caring about men who don't care about you. Because so many times I'll get a private message or a message in our Discord or a message on Instagram, and your questions for me will be like, oh, but he doesn't do this and he doesn't want to take me out and he barely answers my messages and he unfollowed me or he blocked me or he's not talking to me. And my answer is, why do you care so much? He obviously doesn't care. Okay? And I know it's easier said than done, but when someone so obviously doesn't care, why overly invest yourself and overextend yourself trying to figure out what he's doing and why he's doing it and why he doesn't even have the desire to do anything with you, to do anything for you, to care about what you're doing, what you're not doing. So it's different if we're talking about a situation where a guy's going crazy over you and you're going crazy over him and you're going crazy together. But that's one thing versus a guy who literally is showing you he couldn't care less. And you're concerned about what he's doing or not doing. I had someone send me a message the other day and they asked me, oh, I basically told this guy to, he wasn't talking to me. We only went on 2 dates and now all of a sudden he's barely talking to me and I didn't know what to do. So I basically was really confused why he was ignoring me. So I sent him a message after no contact and said, I really like you, but I hate that you're not talking to me. So I'm going to unfollow you. And she sent him that message. I said, why did you do that? There's no reason to do that. If you don't like what he's doing, just unfollow him and move forward. She's like, no, I wanted to send that message. She sent him the message that she was going to unfollow him and that she didn't like that they were in no contact and he wasn't being serious about it. You want to know what he did? You want to know what that guy, chat, take a wild guess. Chat, take a wild guess what that guy's response was to her calling him out about not contacting her and not seeming like he cares that much or has that much interest in the date. Take a wild guess what his response was to her. I just want you to just throw something out into thin air, okay? Don't think too hard. I just want you to take a wild guess, okay? Right? Someone said I think he ignored or didn't respond. Didn't respond, silence, right? He read the message and then he proceeded to unfollow her and didn't send a single response. Embarrassing. Okay? So my point being is stop caring about men that don't care for you. Don't even bother yourself trying to call men out that clearly don't care. It's such a monumental waste of your time and energy. It really does. It really is. I don't know how else to say it. Don't care when a man shows you he doesn't care. I'm not saying turn your feelings off or anything like that, but just understand you're not going to call a man out and make him care. So if he's been showing you he doesn't care and it upsets you, hold your L and move forward. Calling him out ain't gonna serve you not a damn bit. Okay? Crashing out, not gonna serve you not a damn bit. Okay? Someone said that would cause me to crash out. Crashing out would just make it worse for you. And once you crash out, you'll be in a spiral so deep you can't even get yourself out of it. Then you'll be at his house like a stalker.
A subscriber asked me to talk about the book The Rules, which is my favorite dating book, and here are some of those important things I learned from that dating book. The book says, do not tell your therapist that you're doing the rules. And the reason that was so powerful for me is because the rules even said it. Your therapist is going to tell you to be open and transparent with men and to talk about your
Stop doing that.
feelings. Now, is that our therapist changing? I don't know. But I see this sometimes pop up on my TikTok where they're telling you to be transparent with men.
Stop doing that.
You're being avoidant. It's like, well, you should try to avoid a lot of men when you live in patriarchy. Okay? There are some things you should be trying to actively avoid. What's another really good? And another thing in the rules, they talk about how, hey, the rules are just teaching women to date with boundaries and to have standards. And some of the most basic rules are like, hey, don't be responding to men who are calling you after business hours. Like, you're more important than a business. And anytime, watch, when I talk about this stuff, I blocked most of them, but the anti-capitalist brigade comes in and says, you're behaving transactionally. It's like, no, I'm behaving like I have as much worth and value as a business. Actually, I have more. Oh my gosh. Okay? So, men should not be calling you after certain hours. If there's not a time, date, location, this is a great way of preventing flakitude.
Someone asked in the chat, they said, why should I stop being open and transparent with men? I'll tell you exactly why, okay? Because in a perfect world, this is why, what she's saying, I understand exactly what she's saying. The therapist will, a lot of times, your therapist is going to talk to you about life in a perfect world. Meaning, when you ask your therapist a question, your therapist is not inclined, nor probably also not advised to be giving you toxic advice. Meaning, your therapist is probably not supposed to be telling you that in response to a guy not showing up for you or not being consistent with you, that you should just ignore him, give him the silent treatment, withdraw, or any of those things. Because your therapist is always trying to like, oh, be healthy, be mature. Your therapist is like a positive poly. Be healthy, be mature, turn the other cheek, don't let it get you down, be clear in your expression and communicate with all this stuff that like in a perfect world, sure, that is what would help you in your situation and help you get to where you need to go. But in reality, when you're in the dating world that we live in here in today's world, and you go about your relationships where guys disappoint you, they don't care, they don't show up for you, they're inconsistent with you, they're hot and cold, and you think to yourself, oh, okay, I'm going to listen to my therapist. So, John, my therapist was basically explaining to me how I should be more open in my communication. And I just want to let you know that it really, really disappoints me. We haven't seen each other for the past 2 weeks, and you haven't messaged me for exactly 78 hours. And I've been sitting here missing you so much. And I've been wanting us to progress our relationship, but I haven't gotten a chance to because I haven't seen you in so long. And I've really been wanting to go to the Dolphin. And what will his response be? Not mirroring and matching your mature, open mind of communication and transparency, not matching that energy. His response will be, I don't give a damn. And he'll either not respond, or he'll respond when he's finished at the club, he's drunk and he's horned up, and now he wants to sleep with you at 3 a.m. Okay? So yeah, in a perfect world, what your therapist says will work so perfect for you that everyone else will also have that same amount of perfect, open, transparent, communicator. In the real world that we live in, actually, I would rather you withdraw from men who are showing you they don't give a damn about you, because it takes up less of your time and energy when you can just recognize that a guy is not serious about you, take back that energy and investment and give it back to yourself. And it also saves you a lot of time and over-explaining. Okay? Over-explaining is one of the biggest wastes of your time. Okay? I'm obviously not a licensed therapist, but I'm just telling you this in helping so many hundreds of you women. You waste so much time over explaining to men that don't care. And it's very frustrating because you're better served just realizing that the truth is the truth and moving forward. Because when you over explain, nothing ends up changing anyways. They just give you an excuse and they do the same thing they were already going to do in the first place. So you're not seeing any different result. In fact, you're probably more frustrated after you over explain and they do the same thing anyways. It's just the honest truth. But what do I know? I'm not a therapist, right?
Sister, if that man gets on the internet after y'all break up and does everything in his power to try to trigger you into reacting to some bullshit, just know you won. Just know you won. Because, first off, why is a grown man on the internet crashing out trying to shit on you? Is he just a girl too? That's what it's giving. And secondly, it's just so weird to be talking about somebody or targeting somebody that you swear you don't want. If you don't want them, why are you on the internet showing your ass? So, you heard it here. If that
I agree with that. So, guys are funny, and I've seen this happen. Actually, I'm in the midst of watching it happen currently on my timeline. Guys will they play social media games too, and you got to be prepared for that. Anytime you're going through a breakup or going through just a thing where it's kind of fizzling out, is that guys, whether you're in no contact with them or you're going through a breakup with them, they'll attempt to play the social media games with you to trigger you into one, responding, reaching out to them, or just being so triggered that you do something about it, right? Whether it be blocking them, unfollowing them, or sending a message to one of their friends, whatever the case may be. But what I want you to do in every scenario is I want you to do nothing. And I want you to refrain yourself from doing anything or responding to anything that you see him post. Even if you, let's say, block him or unfollow him, and then you hear through the grapevine from another friend that he's been posting this or been sharing this, I want you to give it no response. Because that's what they're dying for whenever they do those posting games, is for you to give it some sort of response, give it some sort of attention. And I know it feels very triggering at times, depending on what he might post. Especially if he starts going out, he's posting girls, he's doing things that you're just like, oh, so you're posting girls now? You're posting yourself with girls and going out to the club and you really want to say something really bad, but I promise you, you will always have the upper hand when you say nothing. Because the moment you pick up the phone and you go to contact him, you've lost. You've lost. You've lost your self-respect. You've lost your position of power. And you've now stooped down to his level, and now he can kind of, mess around with you and throw you out of whack. Okay? And some guys who are really good, they can take you from reaching out to him and, like Essa said, crashing out. They can take you from that all the way to getting you back at their house. Some guys are really that good. So it's better to avoid even putting yourself in that scenario by not even reaching out in the first place. Okay? All right, chat, let's hop into our next segment of the show. It is a special time. It is an amazing time. And it is a time where you're going to laugh and you're going to cry. Okay? If you're an OG Players Club member, please spam it up in the chat what time it is. Please don't look at your watch. Don't look at your clock. Don't look at your phone. Don't look nowhere else in your entire home. It is a special time, and if you don't know the time, I'm going to tell you the time. Are you ready? Discord time. Okay, chat. Okay. Let's hop right into Discord time. For those of you who have no idea what Discord time is, I'm going to explain this to you right now, right here. So Discord time is essentially where all the amazing members of our Players Club community get an opportunity to ask me a question about their relationship or their situationship, and I answer it live on the show. Now, I'm going to mention to you the different ways in which you can send in your questions so we're all on the same page. First, we have our free section. Our free relationship advice forum section is where all of you can drop in your question. Just make sure you format it properly, and I answer it on a first come, first serve basis. So the way you get access to this is by going to the link in my bio on TikTok or link in my description on YouTube. Click where it says Players Club Discord, and then you can drop your question into our free section. Now, like I said, it's a first come, first serve forum. So you see all these questions that are highlighted. These are questions I haven't caught to yet because there's lots in here. So it's going to probably take me here like over 2 weeks to get to your question because there's so many here that I haven't yet answered, and I have to get to them first before I can get to yours. So if you ask your question today in the free section, it's not going to get answered today. It's going to be a couple of weeks. Now, if you're impatient and you don't want to wait for your answer, that's perfectly fine. I have another option for you as well. This is our premium relationship advice forum. This is where you get to skip the line of people in the queue because I answer these questions first before I go into our free section. Now, the way that you're allowed to drop your question into our premium relationship advice section is by first going to the link in my bio on TikTok or in my description on YouTube. Click where it says Premium Discord Relationship Advice. And then when you click that, you're going to be prompted to donate to the show. And you also put in your donation, you send in the title of your username on Discord and the title of your question. And then that way, when I see the notification when you send in your donation, I see the notification on my phone. I'm able to confirm that that's you and that's your question. And your question is supposed to be here. That way it's fair for everyone because obviously you're getting to skip the line. Okay. Now, the third way to send in your question is by going up here, not up here, you can access it anywhere. This is our private relationship advice section as well. This is for those of you who want to ask me a question, but you don't want to have your information read out live on the show. So this same link is also available in my TikTok bio or in my description. Click where it says private relationship advice. You can ask me a personal question. It gets sent directly to me. No one else sees it. And then I respond with a voice message back to you, usually 8 to 10 minutes long. And then you will get your answer that way or perspective that way if that's how you choose. Okay, so you have that option as well if you're someone who wants to just keep the information between me and you. So let's start off with our first premium question here, which comes from IA 2020. I would love your opinion on this. Hi, Tomisin, you are incredible. So are you. I've donated 42 female single circa 2018. Wait, what? What does circa mean? Sorry, I don't know what that means, chat. 2018, 52-year-old, both divorced, no kids. Just spell it out, you know? I think you meant say, okay, anyways, spell it out, chat. It's just very confusing when you guys do a whole bunch of abbreviations. I am fairly successful, popular, and have a great social life. I have been through tough times. My divorce and lost parents all in 6 months. I hope this abbreviation thing isn't going to continue. I think you might say, I'm preserved, want love. I'm a bit of an overthinker, hate BS, spook easy, and run faster. We met at work at a work event where X was speaking. X is very successful. I praised X on the talk. We chatted and X asked for my number and added me on LinkedIn. X asked me to stay back for drinks, but I was done socializing. X messaged later he needed to find a reason to visit London soon. I replied next morning, but then nothing from X for a week. I messaged X to say I was hoping to hear from X sooner. So once again, the man showed you that he wasn't really interested in terms of his actions, right? Prompting him by telling him, I wish you reached out to me sooner is not going to do anything, but let's see if the situation is different. X quickly replied asking if I could talk. X asked to meet when in London next. I had a party that day, but met X for 1.5 hours before as I was traveling then for 3 weeks. When away, X regularly texted, but as things started turning sexual, he said kissing my neck, like, so this is in person. I said, I want to know him first. After that, X texts felt colder. By mid-November, after, I don't even know what this is. Like after the holidays, Xmas season was in full swing. I don't even know what holes is. X had speaking duties, and I had my own events. X didn't try to schedule a meeting. I told him I'd like to meet him before the holidays, 3 weeks. X said he will wait till I'm back mid-January. I felt rejected. On holidays, X messaged every 2 to 3 days. Post-holidays, I expected X to make plans, but X sent his location from 3 different countries the next few days. He was in, what? How is that even okay? I wondered if X is stringing me along. I didn't react, but after 5 days when X texted, I said, I get X is busy and let's reconnect when X's schedule clears. No response. I felt bad about my tone, so I sent a message. Said that without meeting, I feel a disconnect. Once again, you're doing something that doesn't need to be done. I think it's pretty clear how he feels. X replied saying he'd love to meet, but see, we are back to zero. Friend said I was being cold and to go easy. I texted saying I missed our chats and would love to talk. Later, he texted and asked for a date. Meeting Thursday, no confirmed time or place. Desperately need your advice here. How to proceed with caution without self-sabotaging or chasing him. I like him. FYI, if relevant, I, without exception, am not a fan of texting anyone, including family or friends. Over the last couple of months, kept my texting responses to him at a minimum. Although chats were fun, I almost never initiate texts. After he asked me for the date, he said that he gets the feeling that when he is inside the trust, it will be very warm. What? And banter filled, which is attraction for him. And he didn't ask me out earlier as he was respectful of not committing when he wasn't able to find time. When you say inside the trust, I'm assuming he means like when there's trust built up. Also said something along the lines of that he thinks once he is in there, there is no escape. This put me on edge as now I am worried that because everything has been building over text, despite my best efforts and strictly nothing intimate, he might expect things to go full speed for which I am not ready and all might just crash. Okay. First of all, for those of you who are sending in questions, don't do it like this because the abbreviations make it a tougher read because everyone's from a different country, different culture. So I can't assume you mean something. And then when I'm making an assumption, you don't mean that. And then we're not able to answer your question properly. So please write it like you're writing an essay. Okay. Everyone's from a different place here. Now, as it relates to your question and what I understood, very important. I think you're doing too much here. And the parts in which you're doing too much is every time you seem to feel some coldness or distance from him, that he's not communicating to you or he's not like asking you out or progressing the relationship forward, you keep sending him a message. And every time you send him a message, it's not that he necessarily ignores you, but I think what ends up happening is after you send him a message, he's like, oh yeah, you exist. Yeah, sure, we can go out, we can do something, whatever. But you don't realize it, but you're actually training him the same way you would train a dog. You train a puppy from very young. You're training him from the very beginning to not be thinking about you and acting on, his desire to see you. You're training him to forget about you and have the expectation that you will be the one to remind him of your existence. At which point, once he's reminded, he'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot that you exist. Let's do something. I got some time now. That's the cycle that you're starting to build a foundation off of. And already, right, we're very early in this, already you're frustrated with this. And there's nothing wrong with being frustrated with this, but if you're frustrated with this already, and this is the kind of the path that we're veering off towards, I think that you need to make some drastic changes in the way that you approach this. And the drastic change that I think is necessary for you to approach is do absolutely nothing. You're in a special situation where I'd actually advise you to do less than nothing. You've already done enough reaching out, and clearly it seems to be some sort of disconnect in which he doesn't really see that this as very important in terms of reaching out to you, in terms of talking to you, in terms of continuing the relationship or making sure that he actually is consistent with you. If it doesn't seem that important to him, then you shouldn't bother yourself messaging him to call him out on something that I guarantee you he already knows that he's doing. Okay? Don't confuse yourself or overthink this. He is aware that he's not texting you when he doesn't text you. He's aware he's not talking to you or asking you out on a date when he's not talking to you and not asking you out on a date. The only reason he's really asking you out on a date now is because you did the effort of reminding him of your existence. And he's like, sure, I'll go out with you. I got some time. Let's go here and do this. But like I said earlier, you're going to have to continue doing that to sustain a relationship. That's not going to work. You need to pull back. Don't say anything to him now. Until he messages you about this date. And if he doesn't send you a message, I don't care if he doesn't send you, if it's 24 hours before the date and you're thinking, but Tomisin, he's going to forget about it. But Tomisin, we're not going to be able to go. I don't care. If he doesn't message you about the date to remind you about the date or to tell you, where he wants to go or to continue the plan or schedule the plan, then you don't say a word. And if he doesn't say a word to you after that date and he doesn't acknowledge it and he never reaches out to you again, then you don't say a word from now on. You're not going to say a word to him unless he reaches out to you. You're not going to talk about no date unless he asks you about a date. And anything outside of that, you don't reach out. Okay? Let's hop into our next question here. Let me scroll down. Scroll. Okay, so we had a couple from LP Baby that I had to skip. So we did that one. Mark this one. Flirting well effectively. Did we do this one? I'm trying to see here. Okay, I don't think we did this one. Hi, Tommy. LP Baby says, flirting well and effectively. Can you please give us strategies on how to flirt better in the field? I feel like I need to practice more when I go out to improve. For context, I'm 33 years old, extroverted, and also an introverted loner Latina who spends a lot of time focused on herself, school, work, gym, hobbies, dance. That's introverted. There's a lot of extroverted stuff. Okay. It's been very hard to actually position myself to meet men. There's a lot of things you're going to where you'd meet guys. Also, I like to stay indoors when I'm not working, studying, gym, dancing. I am doing a lot for myself. Am I doing myself, a disservice by not going out as much? Well, I feel like you're going out a decent amount. You're at the gym. I mean, obviously work, you're not going there to meet men, but you're at the gym and you go to dance. I mean, do things that you find interesting. If those are the things you find interesting, just try more things that you might find interesting. I don't think that it has to be that overly complicated. Also, I don't think I've had enough opportunities to flirt, and I don't think I'm very good at it yet. Where can I practice flirting? Okay, so the simple answer is you just have to go places where people hang out. So if you want to just practice your flirting, the easiest place I would say to just simply practice flirting on a regular basis would be to venturing out to a club or a bar. Obviously, that's not ideal for building a serious long-term relationship, but if you're strictly talking about practicing the art of flirting, a club or a bar is a place where you can go any weekend that you have time, and you can just see how you practice, flirting and going back and forth with people for the purpose of that, not for the purpose of a serious relationship. So I know obviously not anywhere where debauchery and sinful behavior will take place. So we can rule out the club, bars, hookah lounges, that's funny, etc. And I feel like the grocery store or church might be too banal and not ideal either. For example, the most sinful men and demonic spirits are in church. Excited to hear your thoughts and suggestions. Okay, so you want a suggestion outside of that. I think the dance class is a great one. Now, I don't know how many of these dance classes you go to a week, but I think dance is a great one. You're going to meet, obviously, some weirdos. There are weirdos everywhere. But because it's something where you're going for the purpose of being social, and obviously there has to be interaction in terms of body closeness and interacting with people, it forces you to interact with them, and then you might be able to build some relationships from there. Another thing I would advise you to do, any activity that could probably force you to kind of interact with people in order to do it would be good. So even they have these things called like paint and sips, where you go somewhere and someone will be, you know, standing or whatever the case may be, like on display, and everyone in the class will paint that person while they sip wine or whatever, right? In different cities, they have different things like that. So I would advise you to do some sort of activity-based thing where you can go and be around people if you don't want it to be clubs or bars. Now, obviously, at those places where you're doing an activity-based thing, it's not like everyone is there to meet up and date and flirt and things like that. So just keep that in mind. They also have, and I think you've been to one of these before. I think you had another message that referred to one of these before. They also have, if you live close to a big city, I guarantee you they're going to have dating meetups, okay, for singles around town. If you just type in singles meetups in your big city, I guarantee you they have that as well. If we want to think about the best place for you to practice strictly the art of flirting, it would probably be a singles meetup, because that is literally the purpose of the singles meetup. So you're going to meet a whole bunch of people who are mature in age. Obviously, you're going to have some weird people that just aren't your vibe, but you're going to be able to practice the art of flirting around people that, you know, have more normal tendencies. Maybe not all of them are really weird or really strange, or like, you know, club goers, things like that, right? You might have some more just working professionals that go to these singles meetups, okay? So my advice, singles meetup in your biggest city, that's your best practice for dating. Okay. LP says in the chat, I've never been to a singles meetup. Must have been your other star pupil. There's lots. Okay. There's lots. So I was mistaking you for someone else. With who can I practice? Our gay friends? No, don't do that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with your gay friends, but you're not going to get the way that they approach dating and flirting is going to be different than the way that a straight man will approach flirting. So you want to be getting practice on men who are straight. That's going to give you the best understanding of how to engage with them and how to kind of do the dance with them. The gay men aren't really going to understand the same dance, because their way of flirting with guys is different from your way of flirting with guys as a feminine woman. Okay. So that's my advice to you. Our friend zone guy friends who are patiently waiting to pounce. No, I also wouldn't advise you to do that, because you're sending them the wrong message and you're just going to end up being more confused by them and in your friendship with them. Or just random men, strangers we meet in the real world. Random men and random strangers. That's the best one to do. Just trying to cast a wide net, you know? May the best victim, man, win. Thanks, Tommy, your fave crazy little daughter. Okay? So, yes, I would advise a dating meetup in your big city that's close to you. That would give you the best opportunity to flirt with different types of men. And because you're there for the purpose of dating, it will make it easier for you to not be so in your head about, oh my God, are we here because you're just being friendly, or are we here because we're doing like a flirty thing? Because I feel like if you're doing that, if you're in your head about that, you're going to be a little bit too off in the way that you're going about it, because you're going to be thinking, I don't know if he's actually flirting with me. At least if you're at a singles event, you know everyone there is single and ready to mingle, and then you can just practice seeing how you give off energy, how you receive it, and things like that. You don't even have to go to the singles event looking to actually meet someone. You can, like you said, just go to practice your ability to flirt in person and feel the vibes out, okay? That's the same way. I didn't go to singles events, but it's the same kind of thing that I did in going out. And obviously I don't drink anymore, so I go out sober now. And I am able to effectively talk to people, and over the course of time, it took me a long while, right? But over the course of time, learn how to effectively communicate and flirt and have an understanding and a feeling, like a sixth sense of how people are feeling about me as we're conversing. It just takes practice. Just honestly takes practice. Let's go on to our next question here. Okay, let me get all the way down there. Okay, so we did. Let me make sure we did that one. Okay, so we have Jessica here to do. No, we did Jessica's yesterday. And then this one was an LP baby one that we saved. We did Creek yesterday. That's LP again. Bex. Okay. Bex here. Bex says, getting back out there. Hi, Tommy. I am 27. I just got out of a 5-year relationship with my ex who's 28. The relationship was very long and damaging. Due to this, I've been watching a lot of relationship content, which is how I found you. Did I do this one yesterday? I think I did this one. Regularly visits, so enjoy talking to him. He hasn't brought it up. Oh no, I didn't do this one. Which is how I found you. I love psychology, so your videos feel like a bit of a review from what I learned, mixed with life experiences. I just want to start by saying thank you for these videos. They've helped me a lot. I'm still trying to process everything that happened in the last 5 years, 5-year relationship. So I've been dipping my toe back in and I have gone on a few dates. I've been very open and honest with men that it's going to take me some time to get ready for a relationship again. I feel a lot of guilt behind letting men spend their time and money on me, though, because it feels like they aren't taking what I said seriously. Most of these men are people who come to see me at my job. I bartend at a divey strip club, and they know that I like being spoiled, which is why I have agreed. It's fairly normal. It's a fairly normal ordeal in the industry, but I'm not sure how to handle it. I've never been a player, and I don't like I don't like taking advantage of people. Should I just say no to the dates in general? It felt harmless at first, but now I'm concerned that I might hurt someone in the process. How should I approach the situation if I decide it's not the right time for me without scaring them away from coming into the club? Okay. I definitely felt like I've gotten myself into a pickle. I've always said don't screw your coworkers or your customers, but I thought just a date couldn't hurt. On a side note, I did meet someone at a place my friend regularly visits, and I really enjoyed talking to him. He said he wanted to take me to a museum on a date, but hasn't brought it up since that night. I'd really like to go, but I don't want to push him into following through. That was a huge issue in my last relationship. Should I leave it alone and hope he reaches out, or should I give it a little nudge? Okay. Thank you, Bex, for your question. Now, what I'll say to you, you're in a very special, important position. You work at a strip club and you bartend at the strip club. This is a caveat that cannot be ignored. The reason I say that is because we need to have an understanding of the type of men that will come into your job and the mind state that they will be in when they enter your job. What do I mean by that? You're at a strip club. The men that are coming to strip club are looking to, for the most part, get away from something. I'll just be super straight up with you and super honest with you. A lot of those men are probably married, and the ones that are not married are probably in a place in their life where it will probably not be the healthiest to try and build a relationship with them at that time. I'm not saying that any man who enters a strip club or steps foot in a strip club is an absolutely horrible human being. I'm just saying in a general sense, the mind state of most men that will spend a good amount of time in the strip club, at least enough time for them to sit down with you, maybe for you to see them multiple times, right? And recognize them as a reoccurring customer. And the type of men that will come in, have conversation with you, and eventually ask you out because they've been there so often. Usually those men are in a particular state in their life and also state of mind. Some of which will be married. They're just not telling you that. And they come to the strip club to escape whatever it is they're trying to escape. And some of which who, even though they're single, have a lot of ongoing issues, which is why they come to the strip club. Here's the thing. I'm not here to judge anyone's lifestyle or what they choose to do with their time. But I will say that if you think about this logic, if I'm a single man, or just let's imagine me as a man who's capable of getting women in all these different capacities, and I have access to women 24/7, 365, and I have no problem flirting with women or talking to women. How much sense does it make for me to venture out to a strip club where I'm essentially paying women to talk to me if I have no issue getting along with plenty of women and flirting with beautiful women in my everyday regular life for free? It probably won't make a lot of sense for me if I'm in that position. On the opposite side of the spectrum, if I tend to struggle with women and having good relationships with them, having open communication with them, being able to flirt with them and, have them reciprocate energy to me and have normal conversation that women are interested in me afterwards, then it would make more sense for me to venture out to the strip club where, yeah, I might have to pay some women to talk to me, or I might have to be their customer in order for them to acknowledge me or be interested in me. But at the very least, then I can get a woman's attention, then I can talk to her, and then I can feel good about myself. So the reason that I'm setting all of those, all of that up for you to see and kind of understand is because I also want you taking into consideration, it's not just about, does a guy like you? It's also about, do you even like this guy? And is he what you need for a long-term serious relationship? And I feel like, obviously it's your job. I'm not judging where you work. That's where you choose to work, and that's perfectly fine. But also understand what comes with your work, and also understand what types of guys are you most likely to meet because of the job that you work. And I would advise you, if I were you and I was looking for a guy to date, I would advise you against even considering dating the guys that you're meeting at work, because they're obviously there to come into a strip club. So ask yourself this question, and this is really the only question you really need to ask yourself, and then you can move on to the other one. This is the most important one, though. Ask yourself this: would you be okay with, let's say you quit your bartending job, and the man, let's say that you get married to, is still going to strip clubs? Or the man that's your boyfriend is still going to strip clubs and paying bartenders and strippers to have conversation with them? If the answer to that question for you is no, I would not like that, I would not appreciate that, and I would not even tolerate that, don't even bother considering going on a date with any of the men who come into your work. Because you're quite literally saying, I don't want those men with that lifestyle that come into my job. Because you don't for a second think that you're going to date these men that you met by coming into your, workplace at the strip club, and think that for a second you're going to date them and magically they'll stop going to the strip club. Hey, it don't work like that. It don't work like that. Okay? Not even a little bit. Those men that you met by them coming into the strip club, they will be at the strip club more days, whether it's yours or another one. So don't think that behavior stops because you get into a relationship or even because you get married. You found the guy by meeting him in the strip club at your place of work, obviously, but don't think that he's going to stop that when he becomes your man now. That's who he is. So if that's okay with you, though, then sure, you can go ahead and consider these men. But if you're hearing that and you're like, oh, a strip club that I'm not at without me there, and he's going there and he's talking to those bartenders, and he's going there and he's talking to those strippers and he's paying them and giving them money, that makes me uncomfortable. Go ahead and just don't even consider any of the men that come into your work. Okay. As it relates to the guy that you thought was interesting, my advice to you is to do nothing. I know it sounds like such simple advice, but the problem is when you like a guy, you're inclined, see, I can tell. You want to give him a low, no, don't give him no nudge. Give him nothing. Do not do anything. Let those men show you that they have a desire for you first, right? I get it, right? He was friendly. You enjoyed talking to him and things like that. Let him take action on that. If the conversation you guys had was so good and the vibes were there, let him take action on the vibes. He's the man, right? It's not your job to take action on the vibes. You're not desperate. You're not needy. He's not the first good looking, decent man to talk to you or be interested in you. Don't act like that. Don't act like guys are running away from you, that you need to nudge a man for a damn thing. If he has interest in you, let him pursue that interest in you. He's the man, ain't he? You a woman, ain't you? Okay. So I say that to say, don't let your little bit of anxiety or the fact that you had some good conversation with him make you feel like you need to do any nudging. You don't need to do any nudging if he really likes you. Now, if he doesn't like you, that's a different story, in which case you shouldn't even be wasting your time. Okay. Let's go on to our next question here. Okay. I'll do one more. Let's see if we can get one more that's kind of like short. That one got deleted. This is another LP, baby. We got to save all these here. All right. We'll save these. Could we want to give someone else a chance? Diamond. Okay, that one got deleted. Oh, wait. No, that one's deleted, yeah. All right. So we'll do this one. How long is this? Oh, it's not very long. Okay, we'll do this one. Meridia. Okay, I like that name. How to approach the waiting conversation in early dating. Hey, hi, Tomisin. Hope you are doing well. I'm a 21-year-old female who has never dated before, but I finally am starting to feel ready to start dating again. I will be starting my med school in Q4 2025. I'm not going to give you the same answer I was going to give other people, for which I will be moving to another city. So I will start around that period. Your videos have been incredibly helpful in prepping me for the dating world, and I'm really grateful for the advice you give. As I start dating, I want to be upfront about my values and boundaries. For me, physical intimacy is a sacred act that requires a deep emotional connection, security, and stability. I've decided to wait until I'm in a committed relationship, engagement, or fiance before being physically intimate. Good. That's exactly what I'd advise you. You're in med school. You don't need to have any ulterior focuses. I believe in God, but I'm not religious. So I'm likely to date someone who is not religious. So this might mean they don't share my views on waiting. I want to communicate my boundaries in a way that doesn't feel I am placing an ultimatum or something. Since it's an early interest, I feel that being too direct about my expectations might come across as rushed or assertive. Instead, I love to communicate my values that inspires him to consider waiting, rather than feeling pressured or repelled or as if I'm weaponizing intimacy to get a ring. How can I subtly convey my desire for emotional intimacy and connection before physical intimacy without making him feel like I'm pushing for commitment? Okay, I have the perfect answer for you, Meridia. The thing that you need to do is you need to give some time. So there's going to be a buffer period. Going on a first date with a man is not the time where I want you to be expressing the fact that you are essentially waiting, okay? But for your specific situation, I think it's important to come to an understanding so both parties aren't confused. I want you to wait until you've gone on at least 4 dates with this guy. And on a reoccurring basis where you're seeing some level of consistency from him. Then once you start going on more than 4 dates, you can broach the topic of how you want your life to go. But first, before you even mention or talk about that, I want you to ask him what he envisions for his own life and his own relationships, okay? Because by the time you get to the 4th date, you're going to kind of notice some things. You're going to notice whether or not he's pushing towards trying to be intimate with you, or whether or not he seems to be calm, cool, and collected and able to just learn you and understand you and enjoy spending time with you. You're going to get a feel for that. But after you get a feel for the guy and you feel like, okay, he seems to be fairly patient here and fairly okay with, being understanding me and learning me in terms of, our dates. And I don't feel a whole bunch of pressure here. Then, right, you can start expressing after you've gotten some information from him and acknowledge that he's on the same page as you and he doesn't seem to be hyper fixated on sleeping with you. Then you can express the way that you feel towards intimacy and how you want to make sure. What I want you to focus on in explaining this, I want you to make sure you focus on saying, hey, I love to explore the depth of a relationship and make sure that me and a guy are in alignment. First, because I know once it comes to the intimacy part, that will always take care of itself once that becomes the focus in terms of learning each other and understanding each other better. So you're not going to say, "Oh, it's never going to happen. Oh, I'm not good with this. I don't want it until marriage," or da 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 da. The reason I'm saying that is even when you get on the first couple of months, I just don't think it's necessary to talk about, because at the end of the day, a guy who's willing to wait 6 months is probably okay with waiting until marriage. So it's not even necessarily something you have to bring up at the very beginning. But you'll start to get the sense of the guys who are easily agitated at the idea of not sleeping with you. You'll get that sense very early on. So when you talk about this after this 4th date, all I want you to do is be a little bit vague in your explanation and just talk about how you like to focus on learning the other person and you like to focus on the other aspects of growing the relationship more than just jumping into the intimacy. Then I want you to gauge what his response is. Sometimes when you say that to men, they'll become agitated, and then you'll start to notice after that date. So let's say that's the 5th date that you have that conversation with him. After that 5th date, you'll notice his kind of consistency level and intensity level takes a couple notches down. That's when you know he really isn't serious about building with you, because now that he's heard something that he feels like sounds like I'm going to have to wait some time, he's really not about that, and he's just going to go about his business. I know that's a little bit disappointing, but you have to be gauging with men what they're willing to do and where their mind is at. You don't want to be giving away too much information too early. And like you said as well, you don't want to go out on your dates and be just spilling, oh, this is my rule, this is my rule, this is my rule, this is my rule, right? You want to feel things out. And so I want to give you a buffer zone to feel things out, but also in the way that you communicate, help them understand what your goals are, right? What you're shooting for. And by that time, hopefully you've also been able to ask him some questions where you're also getting a better understanding of what his goals are and what he's shooting for. And if there's even an alignment there. Does that make sense? Right? Let me give you a little bit of a pro tip just before we get out of here. A little bit of a pro tip to you is a guy who lives his life with discipline in other areas, the gym, his work, his career, his money, his finances, and you'll hear this in the way he talks about his life, right? When you ask questions, a guy who has discipline in his life will be the type of guy you're looking for, because you're obviously not looking for a guy who's necessarily religious, but you still want a guy who's disciplined enough to wait until marriage. So he has to be able to show that amount of discipline in other aspects of his life. If that guy doesn't seem to have discipline in other aspects of his life, just go ahead and wrap it up on the first date, because I guarantee you he won't be able to have discipline to not sleep with you until you guys are engaged or married. It's just not going to work. I guarantee you that, right? So keep that in mind as well when you're asking guys questions about how they choose to live their life and the type of person that they are, okay? All right, chat, that is the show for today. For those of you who have a question for me, whether it be in our free section, our premium section, or a private question for me, all of those links are available in my TikTok bio or in my description. For those of you who want to ask me a question. For those of you who are watching me on TikTok, my Instagram is just above my head on the top left corner of the screen, Tomisin_Tub. It's also down in my description there. You can find it there. For those of you who are watching this show on TikTok and you want to rewatch it again because you enjoyed it or you just missed some parts of the show, my YouTube is just above my head. It's my name, Tomisin, Tomisin. Type it in on YouTube. You could go to the live section and you'll see this live stream and all the other live streams I've done since the beginning of time, okay? Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube there as well. For those of you who are wondering when I am live and what time, I am live every weekday, Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I will be live again tomorrow at 4 p.m. EST. You got to figure out what time that is in your time zone. Okay? Until we meet again tomorrow, I bid you adieu. Arrivederci, au revoir, hasta la vista, sayonara, ciao, salam, baoni. That's my language in Yoruba, it's Nigerian, okay? Baoni. Thank you, Nicole, for the donation of $5. I appreciate you. Thanks so much for your great wisdom, Thompson. Thank you for your donation. I bid you all adieu, and I'll see you all again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bon voyage. I love you so much. Thank you for a great show. I'll see you soon.